For 18 days, one of the world's most capable public AI models was effectively taken off the internet by the United States government. Then it came back. But Claude Fable 5 did not return as a normal software product after a normal bug fix. It returned with stricter safety routing, more government testing, faster threat reporting, and a new understanding between Anthropic and federal agencies. That is the real story here. The first publicly documented export control shutdown of a commercial frontier AI model also produced the first reversal. And the conditions attached to that reversal may offer an early look at how powerful AI systems will be released from now on. To understand what happened, we need to separate two models that are closely related. Anthropic launched Claude Fable 5 and Claude Mythos 5 on June 9, 2026. Underneath, they are essentially the same highly capable model. The difference is access to certain sensitive abilities. Fable 5 is the version intended for broad use. It has classifiers designed to detect risky requests involving areas such as cybersecurity and biology. Mythos 5 has fewer of those restrictions and is meant for vetted organizations doing defensive security and scientific work through a program called Project Glasswing. Think of it as the same powerful engine installed in two vehicles. One has electronic limits and driver assistance systems. The other gives trusted specialists more direct control, but only inside a restricted program. 3 days after launch, both vehicles were pulled off the road. On June 12th, the US government issued an export control directive blocking access to Fable 5 and Mythos 5 for foreign nationals. That included people outside the United States, foreign nationals legally living inside the country, and even Anthropic's own non-citizen employees. Anthropic said it received the directive at 5:21 in the afternoon and could not reliably verify every user's nationality in real time. So it shut down both models for everyone. This reveals the first strange mechanism in the story. Internet services normally decide access using location, account information, payment details, or an organization's identity. Export controls can care about nationality instead. A person connecting from California could still count as a foreign national. An American traveling in Singapore could still be a US national. An employee might have legitimate access to Anthropic systems while being legally barred from touching one particular model. An IP address cannot solve that problem. Neither can a simple country selector.
Anthropic would have needed an identity system capable of checking nationality across consumer accounts, business customers, cloud platforms, developers, contractors, and staff. Until that system existed, the safest legal response was the bluntest one: turn the models off globally. If you enjoy explanations that get underneath the headline and show how the machinery actually works, subscribe. That is exactly what we do here. So why did the government act in the first place? The immediate trigger was a report from Amazon researchers. They had found a way to bypass part of Fable 5's cybersecurity safeguards. According to Anthropic, the technique got the model to identify several software vulnerabilities. In one case, it also produced code demonstrating how a vulnerability could be exploited. That sounds alarming, but this is where the dispute becomes complicated. Anthropic argued that the reported vulnerabilities were already known and relatively minor. It also said less capable public models could identify the same flaws and produce similar demonstration code. In Anthropic's telling, the bypass did not unlock the special offensive capabilities associated with Mythos 5. It exposed a borderline behavior that Fable's filters were designed to block out of caution. Government officials did not have to accept that framing. A jailbreak is not important only because of what one prompt produces. It can also reveal that the boundary separating a public model from restricted capabilities is less reliable than expected. Imagine a secure office with a locked records room. A researcher discovers that one filing cabinet can be reached through a loose wall panel. The documents found there might be ordinary. But the loose panel raises a larger question. What else could someone reach with a better technique? This is what people often misunderstand about AI jailbreaks. A jailbreak is not usually a secret phrase that permanently transforms a safe chatbot into an evil one. It is a method of getting around a surrounding control system. The base model generates possible responses. Separate classifiers inspect the request, the conversation, or the planned output, and estimate whether it crosses a risk boundary. Attackers then experiment with wording, context, roleplay, code transformations, or multi-step requests to make harmful intent look harmless. The security problem is asymmetrical. The defender must catch a wide range of dangerous variations without constantly blocking legitimate work. The attacker only needs to find one path the classifier misunderstands.
Anthropic's fix was not to retrain the entire underlying model from scratch. It trained an improved safety classifier aimed at the behavior found in the Amazon report. If Fable 5 now detects a restricted request, it tells the user the request has been blocked and routes the query to Claude Opus 4.8, a less capable model. That downgrade matters. A refusal ends the interaction. Downgrade routing tries to preserve the useful part of the request while reducing the capability available to complete it. Suppose a developer submits code and asks why it crashes. If the system sees ordinary debugging, Fable can help. If the request appears to be steering toward vulnerability discovery or exploitation, the system can send it to a model with a lower risk profile. The user still gets assistance, but not from the strongest engine. Anthropic says the updated classifier blocks the specific technique from the Amazon report in more than 99% of tested cases. It also admits the filter creates more false positives during harmless coding and debugging. That trade-off is unavoidable. Tighten the detector, and more legitimate requests get caught. Loosen it, and more dangerous requests slip through. The government's Center for AI Standards and Innovation tested the old and new safeguards. The export controls were lifted on June 30th. Fable 5 returned globally on July 1st, while Mythos 5 was restored only to a set of approved US organizations. But the classifier was only one part of the resolution. Anthropic also committed to give designated government partners earlier access to future models that significantly advance capabilities relevant to national security. Government evaluators will be able to test both the models and their guardrails before broad release. The company also promised faster information sharing when serious jailbreaks or misuse patterns appear. That includes sharing safeguards for independent testing, providing threat intelligence before public reports are released, assigning technical teams to joint research, and contributing computing resources to government evaluation work. Anthropic says it also wants a common industry framework for rating the severity of jailbreaks. This does not officially create a government licensing system for AI models. The June 2nd executive order behind the emerging framework describes participation as voluntary and explicitly says it does not authorize mandatory pre-clearance for releasing models. The reason way just serving though, the boundary is becoming less clear. If a company can face emergency export restrictions after launch, then voluntary pre-release coordination may feel much less optional. OpenAI's GPT 5.6 family showed how quickly this model could spread. OpenAI initially offered it through a limited preview to trusted partners whose participation had been shared with the government. The company said the restricted phase was requested by the administration while the two sides worked on a repeatable process. GPT 5.6 later became generally available on July 9th. If everyone moving a frontier AI, a normal consumer product is released, patched, and updated. A frontier model may instead be treated as a regulated capability layer. Different users can receive different levels of intelligence from the same underlying system. Access can depend on identity, organization, purpose, monitoring, data retention, and government review. The product is no longer just the model. The product is the model plus the classifier, the identity gate, the routing system, the logs, the trusted access program, and the institutions allowed to inspect it. That has real benefits. Cyber defenders could receive stronger tools than anonymous users. Dangerous requests could be redirected instead of making an entire model unavailable. Independent testing could catch weaknesses before millions of people encounter them. It also creates serious risks. Government review could become inconsistent or political.
Smaller AI companies may struggle to afford extensive testing and compliance. Researchers outside approved institutions could lose access to tools that large corporations and government agencies can use. And if every laboratory follows a different standard, one model might be punished for behavior that competitors still allow. The important point is not that every frontier launch will now require government permission. That has not been established. The stronger conclusion is that model capability, access control, and national security have become inseparable. Claude Fable 5 came back because Anthropic changed more than a filter.
It accepted a deeper operating relationship with the government around testing, reporting, and future releases. The first frontier model export control reversal therefore looks less like the end of a dispute and more like the first draft of a release process. The next major AI launch may not begin with a public download button. It may begin with a restricted preview, outside evaluators, monitored access, and several versions of the same intelligence for different classes of users. Whether that becomes sensible safety engineering or an improvised permission system will depend on who writes the rules, whether those rules apply equally, and how transparent the process becomes. What do you think? Should the most capable AI models receive government security testing before release, or does that create too much control over access? Share your view below and leave any questions or suggestions for the next topic.